Good evening. This is the Planning Commission, a special meeting for Tuesday, September 28th, 2021, and I call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Black?
Here.
Commissioner Calindres?
Here.
Commissioner St. Martin stated he would be absent this evening. Vice Chair Smith?
Here.
And Chairman Stevens.
Here. Thank you. We pledge of allegiance. Mr. Smith, could you lead us?
Yes. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I have none.
And any conflict of interest disclosure? None that I hear. This is the public comment period. Next here, this meeting will be open to the public and conducted in a virtual format to be inclusive of all participation preferences. Public comment participation is encouraged by emailing any comments to the city clerk's office or by calling in using the phone number provided on the front of the agenda. Are there any public comments?
I have no written comments. Heather, do we have anyone on the line?
No calls.
So we can move on to item 1, which is the public hearing and consideration of an amendment to the Beaumont Municipal Code, Chapter 17.14.030, definitions. Amendment to Table 17.03-3, permitted uses in base zone districts, and addition of 17.11.160, energy storage facilities. Can we have a staff report, please?
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Before you this evening is, for your consideration, is a series of amendments and additions to the municipal code. The state of California has recently enacted policies and legislations related to alternative energy. Some of the most notable legislation includes the 100% Clean Energy Act of 2018, the Golden State Energy Act of 2019. Back in 2015, there was AB 802, which pertained to energy efficiency. We had an executive order in the last year and numerous proclamations and such related to energy use. The Beaumont Municipal Code, Chapter 17, regulates land uses within the city. The municipal code currently allows for a variety of utility-related uses, including water, sewer, and wind. Other than wind, the code does not provide an option for alternative energy. In an effort to acknowledge the direction of the state and to provide options for a variety of alternative energy in the city, staff is proposing the addition of energy storage facilities to the Beaumont Municipal Code. The proposed ordinance is aimed at providing the opportunity for energy storage while protecting the health and safety of the general public. This is achieved through properly classifying facilities, providing development standards, performance measures, and ensuring proper decommissioning when the use is terminated. The ordinance contains some of the following key components which speak to these points: classification of these facilities and their components, development standards addressing site design, standard conditions of approval that would be applicable to each project, and a decommissioning plan, including establishment of a decommissioning fund, which would ensure in case a developer was no longer available to return the site to its previous state, that could still be accomplished. The proposed municipal code in its entirety is included as an attachment to the staff report, along with the definitions and permitted use tables. At this time, staff is recommending the commission hold a public hearing and forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the amendment to Beaumont Municipal Code, Chapter 17.14.030, definitions, amendment to Table 1703-3, permitted uses in base zone districts, in addition of 17.11.160, energy storage facilities. Staff is available to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Is there any questions by the commission or discussion? Anybody on Zoom? Commissioner Black and Commissioner Calendris?
I have no questions, thank you.
I have no questions at this moment.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
The basis for the new section of the municipal code, where was that derived from? Another city that has similar, or?
Right, so there's a number of factors that came into play. As stated in the staff report, the state is moving in that direction. When we updated the general plan and the zoning code, we did allow for wind energy systems, but did not address anything that would pertain to battery type usage, which could either be lithium ion type batteries or solar batteries or anything that receives the energy and stores it like that. A number of cities in California have started to do this, and actually, in our research, we found a number of states throughout the country have quite a bit of standards that we were able to look at and help craft this. We anticipate moving forward that we will have projects that would utilize this section of the code, and this is sort of an effort to be preemptive and to accommodate what we know is coming down the pipeline.
Okay. And I just realized my mic wasn't on, so apologies there. Looking through some of the materials on here, I think, the definitions make sense. In attachment C, I did notice that under utilities, public storage was crossed out as well.
Yeah, so that has actually been a source of a lot of confusion for the general public. When we think of public storage facilities, generally speaking, we think of like mini storage, warehouse type things. And it actually is not defined in the municipal code anywhere. So it was put into the use table without a clear definition. We decided we would swipe it because a public storage facility was not clearly defined. We don't have anything we would consider a public facility that would fit under that, or a public storage facility that would fit under that utility category, if you see how the use table is broken down. So it has been removed. We have replaced, when we did the storage standards, there are actually now clearly defined definitions for self-storage, mini warehouse. And so those things have been addressed. The public storage facilities coming out will now have energy storage facilities and wind facilities, which are already in there.
Gotcha.
So I think it clarifies.
Okay. And then the only zone that this is permitted at this point would be the manufacturing zone.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I guess my only question would be or comment would be on the decommissioning,
Yes.
because we are, if a plan was to go under and now we have hazardous material stored on site, what's the liability or the financial burden on the city for something like this?
So staff put a lot of thought into that. And that has happened before. I know Carol's had some experience with that in another jurisdiction. So it was something that was at the forefront of our discussion. The decommissioning section of the code that we're proposing to add addresses a decommissioning fund. So in addition to having a decommissioning plan that would have to be submitted to the city prior to issuance of a building permit, we have included that a decommissioning fund has to be established, and that will be in some manner that's acceptable to the city. So either a letter of credit or a bond or something along those lines that the city could then, if something were to occur, a developer was no longer available to handle the decommissioning, city staff would have the resources to address decommissioning and restoring the site without a burden to the taxpayers.
Thank you for that clarification. Any further discussion from the commission before we open the public hearing? All right. Open the public hearing at 6:11 p.m. And are there any requests to speak?
I have no written comments.
Oh, we
Heather,
do?
do we?
We did receive
Oh,
written
okay.
comment, yeah.
That's right.
So you have on your dais up there, as well as for commissioners that are virtual, it was emailed to your commissioner email, your city email. We received a letter from Terrigen, who is what the city would consider a stakeholder in this type of use. And they did propose some changes to the language, primarily for clarification. And staff has been over this, and part of our recommendation, I believe they're here to speak, so we'll let them talk and we can discuss further. But there are some clarifying languages speaking to equipment and heights and things that are enclosed versus things that are not enclosed. Staff is actually amenable to including this language. There's nothing in here that is exceptional in regards to height or scope relevant to what's already allowed in the manufacturing zone. The ordinance does call for anything that isn't specifically identified in the development standards, that they are subject to the standards of the manufacturing zone. There is an option for Planning Commission to make a determination at the applicant's request when any project like this would come forward if there was something that needed to exceed a certain standard for whatever reason, as far as operation of the facility would go. So, and that's called out in Development Standard 2E. And then decommissioning under number 1, we did add the language prior to the approval of a building permit that the decommissioning plan would have to be submitted. And that is something that we had discussed previously, and I didn't put it in specifically, but it is amenable, and that would be an acceptable time for a decommissioning plan to be submitted to staff. And that was the only written comment that we received.
Great.
I don't have any emailed comments. Heather, do we have anyone on the line?
No calls.
So we have some guests here that I guess now would be the time if you want to speak. Come on up. Come up to the mic. State your name and who you're from.
Yes, hi, I'm Mark Turner. I lead energy storage and development for Terrigen.
Sorry, could you point that mic towards your, there you go, thank you.
Is it on? Push the, it's not on. Hold on. Okay. Nicole will set you up here.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Turner. I lead energy storage development for Terrigen. And I'm here to make any clarifications. I think Christine did a great job outlining our proposed clarifications to the text of the use language. And so I really don't have any additional comments at this time. Unless you have any questions of me, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Is there any questions on that?
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else here that would like to come up and speak? No? All right. I can close the public hearing if there's no further discussion or comments at 6:15. And we can ask for, I'd like to ask for a
I have
motion.
a question.
Question, yes, Ms. Black, please.
All right. Christina, what are the parameters around developing the decommissioning plan? Is that going to be specific to each project? Are there general guidelines, or how is that going to be determined?
So we have some general guidelines included in the municipal code language, which would include a description of the activities that would have to take place, who would perform those activities, at what point those activities would occur. And that refers to the physical removal of all equipments and components and structures that would be on site. The decommissioning plan will have to address disposal of solid and hazardous waste and show that it's compliant with all local, state, federal standards for disposal. How long the energy facility, what's the anticipated life of the energy facility, I suppose, is the best way to say it. What the anticipated decommissioning costs would be, And then the method of ensuring the funds would be available. So that's what we spoke to, whether it's a letter of credit or a bond or something to that effect. And then it would have to speak to how the site would be restored and any changes that would be addressed, et cetera. So all of those things would have to be included in the decommissioning plan that would be approved by staff.
My only thought about that is as you mentioned, so perhaps this place is built and then all of a sudden something happens to the company. Is a letter of credit sufficient to cover that, or should we look at additional?
Yeah, typically a letter of credit from a reputable financial institution is actually easier to deal with than a bond or anything like that. Letter of credit, typically you can take to that bank and cash it in at any point in time and it stands as good. A bond, many times you have to actually sue the bond company to get them to perform and whatnot. So the letter of credit's actually the preferred method, I think, but staff would be open to something along those lines in conference with the applicant and of course our, city's administration and whatnot.
Would this be something similar to perhaps an insurance policy or an insurance type claim?
I think
Am I
it's
looking
more
at
of
it
just
the right way?
it's more of just a financial security type setup. I wouldn't call it an insurance in any regard. I think it's more of a financial guarantee that says if the company goes under, the city will have the financial means to remedy the site and get it back to its previously developed state or an acceptable state.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
And then are there conditions for inflation, et cetera, for as long as the project is in use? I guess my concern is, 30 years down the line, the cost of decommission is going to be significantly different.
Sure. We did not discuss CPI specifically in this ordinance, but at the time, an estimated cost for decommissioning would be submitted. We would anticipate or expect that it would be submitted in dollars reflective of 20 or 30 years from now as opposed to today's dollars. So some sort of inflationary, some sort of inflator should be built into that cost. And that would be what staff would be looking for.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Black, for that. The public hearing is closed, and if we need a motion to move forward.
So given the changes that were proposed by the applicant on here, I read them through, it didn't seem they were material in nature, clarification, and with staff amenable to these changes, I'd make a motion to approve with the changes as offered by the written comments.
Do we have a second from anyone on Zoom?
I would second.
Okay. First by Smith and second by Commissioner Black.
I'll do roll call. Commissioner Black?
Yes.
Commissioner Cleandress?
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
And Chairman Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any Community Development Director comments?
I do have one comment for the commission and for the general public. The city of Beaumont has received an application for the Summit Station project, and we currently have an NOP, a Notice of Preparation for an Environmental Impact Report, which has been published on the city's website as well as in the newspaper and mailed to all property owners within the required radius. And the scoping meeting will be held on October 7th, which is next Thursday at 5:30 p.m. It will be an in-person as well as virtual participation option. We anticipate it will be in a webinar format where people can utilize the chat function and submit their questions as well as email in to planning staff, either Carol or I, to the deputy city clerk's office or, provide written comments in hand or via mail. So we would appreciate any observation that the commission would like to, participate in, or any community questions that you hear or concerns that you might hear. Feel free to direct them to staff, to either Carol or I. We're happy to answer any questions. Direct them to the planning department's website. There is a page set up with the information that we have so far for that project. It's the newest project that we've had come in that's of a significant size. So we want to make sure that we provide ample opportunity for the public to provide input and, gather all the information necessary as we embark on the process of the environmental impact report and the project review. So that's all I have this evening, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission might have.
Any questions the commission has for staff?
No questions.
All right. Great. Adjourn the meeting at 6:22 p.m. Thank you very much for everyone attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Good night.